Hello and welcome to Copic in the Craft Room. This is Michelle Houghton and I'm going to be coloring this beautiful image using the Copic Colors Challenge of the month. So only 3 markers, Y21, R32 and RV69. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color off to the corner here. I'm not planning on necessarily saving this entire image. I really just want to test what these colors can do and how they're going to layer. Obviously, I've got 3 different color families. I've got different saturations, different values. I've got one lighter, one kind of medium, and one dark, but extremely different. So I'm testing those out. I've layered the yellow down in a big strip. I've come back with the red over a portion of it and then done a little bit of that light red separately, and then added that RV69 on the top of both to see how they're going to blend together, if I'm going to be able to combine those, what kind of values or tones I'm going to get from those, and see kind of what range or kind of how that's going to look as I start stacking those right on top of each other. So I think I have a little bit of a sense of that going back and forth, and I think I'm ready to go ahead and get started on my image. So I will zoom in, and of course we will need to speed up a little because this one has a lot of detail to it. So we're going to start with the skin, and I'm basing the skin in that Y21. Now I'm going to aim for a little bit of a peachier tone with this by layering those colors, but the Y is going to be my base, so she's not completely pink. The R32 is next, and I'm coming in, and what I'm starting with first is trying to figure out kind of where I'm going to add some of that shape and form to her face. So I'm coming in from the sides to give the roundness shape, and then I'm softening those edges back with my Y21. Again, at this point, I'm really experimenting with these colors. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to react with each other. I'll go ahead and work my way down her arms and her hands, just adding little touches of that R32 and then coming back and softening that with the Y21. Again, just trying to give a sense of shape. I'm not, this isn't a super, obviously realistic looking image. So the next thing I'm going to tackle is her hair. And I've been experimenting a lot with hair recently, of starting with my darker colors and then working to light. So this one I started with that RV69 and flicked from the part outward and from the ends upward, way up on the tip of that brush nib. And now I'm working with the R32. So I'm starting in the same spot. So I'm going over the RV69 and then extending some of that with the R32. So it softens it as I extend that color. And then I'm coming back in with a Colorless Blender. That is the one other marker that I pull out. I figure that's kind of fair. And I'm softening some of those highlights a little bit, the edges of those highlights. Coming in on her little shoes with an RV69 and then really just circling on top of it with that red. A little bit of the Y21 on some butterflies and the cone of the flowers, and tiny bit of R32. I realized I've forgotten her neck, so I'm coming in with the yellow and the red as well. And then I'm hitting her little skirt. And I started with a Colorless Blender, and then I'm playing with that Y21. And I realized pretty fast that I went the wrong way with the light, and so I come back and reverse that. Make sure that light's coming a little bit more from the left-hand side like it is on her face. So now I'm filling in around the dots with the R32. Obviously this takes a little bit of time because I'm avoiding those dots. I'm leaving a little bit of a white highlight, and I'll shrink that up here even further. But I'm softening it with the Colorless Blender and then going really lightly over it with the R32 and softening again with the Colorless Blender to leave a little bit of a highlight along that left side. Here comes that RV69 and softening that as best I can with the R32. This is a huge jump. It's not an easy one, so it does take some work. I'm kind of blending over it quite a bit. I come back in on those circles and hit that right hand side again one time just to lighten it up and try to make sure the dots are getting that highlight about the same place as the skirt. Just backing out a little bit so you can see a little bit better her little shirt. So this one I'm laying down the Colorless Blender first because I wanted to keep her shirt really, really light, and then I'm flicking kind of a broad stroke this time though, so I'm on the side of my brush nib and I'm flicking that Y21 onto the Colorless Blender in the center, and then I'm coming back with the Colorless Blender to soften that. So it basically fades to white. So this is a super light yellow top. I'm going to do the same thing with her little sleeve, and I also come back in a second layer with that Y21 to darken up those edges. I really don't need another marker. I can darken it up just by hitting it with a second layer. Little of that R32 on the button and on her heart on her cheek, RV69 and R32 to give a little bit of softness to that heart. And then I added the yellow and the red onto her hair tie, more of the red and Colorless Blender on some butterflies. And again, I'm just playing RV69, R32. I'm just bouncing back and forth between the three colors at this point, and Colorless Blender on those little butterflies. So I've just about got this image done. I have these little flowers at the bottom. So again, I Colorless Blender on the petals and then just a little light flick of that Y21. So super light petals. And then the leaves, I go ahead and do the RV69. And this time I go right to the Y21, and I wanted to see kind of what would happen if I kind of stuck the two of those together. That worked pretty well for the leaves. Went back a little bit with my R32 just to soften it a little further. Doing a little bit of cleanup with my Colorless Blender. I had a couple places where I went a little overboard with color, and then I'm going to work on a background, at least a little bit of a halo effect. So Colorless Blender. And then R32, and this is going to speed up here eventually, but I want to show you how I'm going to do this. So R32, again with the Colorless Blender to soften the edge. And then I came in with the yellow, the Y21, because I knew that was going to soften into the Colorless Blender even more. So I'm going to do that exact same series pretty much all the way around. Now as I get over to the other side of the image, over to that left hand side, you're going to see I actually transition and only use the yellow, just so it has a little bit different effect as it comes around. But on the whole right side and up and around her head, I've got this layering of the R32 and the Y21 kind of fading into white. And you can kind of see where I'm stopping that R already, and the yellow is going to come out and enclose the butterflies, or at least get real close to them, soften it up with the Colorless Blender, but it's bouncing now back and forth between those three markers. So we've got the R32, Y21, and Colorless Blender, and down here once we hit her shoulder, it's just the Y21 and the Colorless Blender. Then here's where it shifts under, kind of between her legs, shifts into that yellow. And she's pretty much done. I always have a couple things on an image like this where I discover, oops, I missed something, or I need to go back. So I found one little spot by her neck that should have been background color. So I'm going to hit those really quickly with my yellow and then with my red, the R32, and get that caught back up to speed. I am really thoroughly enjoying these challenges. Now, each month, Copic puts one of these out. It's coming out from Imagination International, but it's a Copic challenge, and you can share the work that you complete by using the hashtag Copic Colors. But they have 3 new colors each month. Now, this is a fun thing, too, is that they put them in a little pack if you want to order them if you don't have the colors available. But it's a fun challenge. It really challenges your skills in coloring. Really makes you think about color differently. Thanks so much to Studio Duda Art. I love her fun, playful images. And thank you so much for joining me this week on Copic in the Craft Room on YouTube. If you haven't had a chance, stop by my Facebook or my blog. at scrapweaver.com. Have a happy, colorful week.